in terms of the recruitment side of things, because I know that probably takes up a lot of your time. You say we're getting closer to January, but again, I'm sure you're not just planning for January in the type of role you've got to plan years ahead as well. So on that kind of recruitment side of things, I'm sure your time being an agent has obviously helped. You've kind of been involved in recruitment before you were even doing the role you're at now. So if you could just kind of give us a bit of an overview of what the department looks like in terms of just other people that's in there and what goes into bringing a player into a club, really.
So I think where it all starts is the knowledge of what's needed. So that is very much the sporting director and the manager.
Yeah,
And you, as I say, we're constantly reviewing the squad. We're constantly seeing who's doing well, who's stepping up, who's dropping off, what do we need. So you get to a point where you go, okay, we need X, Y, and Z. The manager then steps away from it,
mm.
and the recruitment department step up. So you get the analysts trawling through the data, and the data points have got to be better than where we are now with the squad. And then that can be passed over to the live viewing, so we can start looking at the players. And then you're doing also delving into backgrounds, you're doing due diligence on character and everything. So a lot of hard work goes into that. You've got agents throwing names at you left, right, and centre. You will have a database of pretty much all the players in the world because, with modern technology, you can get eyes on anybody anywhere nowadays. So you will always have some form of a report on a player, so that you can start from there. And eventually, it'll whittle itself down to where the head of recruitment has got several options for each position that you need.
Yeah,
And from there, it's then a case of, okay, well, we have head of recruitment myself, the manager, have a meeting. We have the head analyst there as well to talk to the data aspects of it, and we will go through every single player that is on that list.
yeah,
And from there, it's back to the manager because this is the guy that is going to be working with these players on a daily basis. I don't.
yeah,
I'll see them in the corridor, I'll see them in the canteen, but I'm not actually working every day with them, coaching them, telling them what to do, giving them the tactics, philosophies, etc., etc. So it has to be the manager's choice,
yeah,
from my opinion.
yeah,
And then so we will then come up with a list of, if we're looking for, let's say, left winger, we've got 5 options. Right, Darren, put them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
mm.
Or if you've got it absolutely spot on, he'll go, just sign any of them.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, and then it's back to us to work through it and try and get it there. But at that point, the head of recruitment will have already spoken to the agent of the player. What's the deal going to look? He'll be the nice guy. What's it going to look like, etc., etc. Not negotiating, but just trying to dig up the facts, what it looks like. You're all doing your homework into the player's character, because everybody's got a network in football. So we've got all that information, and then it's okay. Deal with the club, deal with the agent. Then the most important thing is player and manager have got to meet.
yeah,
Because those two have got to look each other in the eye and try and say, I can work for this guy, I can work with this guy, I can trust this guy, and so on and so forth. So from start to finish, it can be, it can be very quick. You could go, but the he's available. We all know him. We all know his character. We know the agent. Can we do it? But there are also situations where you can track a player. So Shaqiri, for example, we tried to get him when he left Bayern Munich to go to Inter, and there was no chance at that point. And he spent a year at Inter, and we followed him and followed him and followed him. And then at that point, Inter couldn't do the deal to take him in. So we chased him. We'd already tried to chase him again in January, so he knew he was wanted. So sometimes it can take a lot longer.
yeah,
But you've got other clubs trying to convince them as well, trying to convince the agent. So it's then down to negotiating with everybody. So it's there's a lot of people involved. There's a lot of different dynamics involved. Everybody's going to be after a striker. So if you identify a striker, guarantee 15 other clubs have as well.
yeah,
So then it goes down to what's your USP? What can you sell them? What can you give them that makes you stand out to everybody else? So you have to have all of these different things. So it's a long process, but hopefully you get to the end where you actually get the signature of the player.
Yeah, I mean, because I did a little bit going back when I spoke to you before we started recording. But part of my role as a recruit, I did a bit of recruitment analysis back in the day. So kind of a lot of them things that you said
Yeah.
there resonate, and kind of did a lot of them myself. But I think it's well, you mentioned there some can come around quicker than others because just for example, like a club could sign a fullback and then their who was the first choice fullback then becomes available out of the blue, and then that could be someone that you want to then sign. So just kind of being reactive as well as also being forward thinking and planning years ahead. Because I suppose you've got to then factor in see the contract lengths of the current players, the people that are maybe in the under 18s that you don't want to block their pathway as well. So there's lots to kind of consider when you kind of get down to it. So you touched upon agents a little bit there, Mark. Is that more of a thing that the head of recruitment would deal with? Are you dealing with agents on a daily basis, or do you have them conversations as well, or is it more the recruitment guy?
So I think look, agents will try and find any way they can into the club, and it's making sure. So, for example, if an agent sends me a player, I'll send it straight to the head of recruitment because that's his remit, that's
Mm.
his job. But I've got to have relationships with agents because I'm going to be sat down negotiating with them.
Yeah,
Darren, again, is getting agents ringing him, putting players into him. He again passes them on to the head of the recruitment. But Darren has to have relationships with agents because it's their players that he's coaching and developing
yeah,
and hopefully making better. So, we all have different roles and responsibilities with agents. But all three of us and all the scouts as well will have agents that they speak to. So, everybody is having conversations all the time. But I guess the sort of key the key element of it is when it gets down to that final negotiation, that's me.
yeah,
So that's where it doesn't matter how friendly you've been with that agent through this whole process.
mm,
That's the business end, and it can be tough.
yeah,
But you're both doing a job, and at the end of it, you shake hands. Hopefully, everybody's happy, and you can go back to the friendliness of it all again.
yeah,
So you got to be prepared for that, and sometimes it's better, to keep others out of that. And I used to say to my players as an agent is look, I'll fall out with the club. Don't you fall out with the club
mm,
because that damages your career.
yeah,
If I fall out with the club, yes, they may be annoyed with me for a moment in time, but the moment I have another player that they want,
yeah, yeah,
we're friends again. Do you know what I mean? So
mm,
it's
yeah,
that type of thing. So and I need your head of recruitment and I need my head coach to be the good guys. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah, no, that's interesting. If we can do a little bit of an example for the fans listening as well, and just kind of the outsider. So let's say you've done that process of you're looking for a player, the recruitment team's done their work, the analysts have done that. You've presented to Darren, you've then narrowed down on the one guy that you want. So then, what happens there from that in terms of that? Is it then speaking to the agent first, and then from there, how does that? You mentioned you're kind of the negotiate. You would do some of the negotiating. So how does it look from first phone call to that player's agent potentially to getting him to sign on the contract? What's that kind of flow look like, Mark? If you can share some of that.
Well, don't forget the agent will have been involved all the way from the beginning.
Yeah,
Uh, 9 times out of the 10, the agent is ringing you and saying, um, Billy's available for loan, or Billy's going to be available for transfer, or he's a free agent in the summer. So he's been involved from day one.
yeah,
Um, if there's a club involved, then you need to speak to the club. You know, then you need to get permission to speak to the player. So in reality, you're always dealing with the agent.
yeah,
The sort of player comes at the very end, and the club comes in the middle of all that. Sometimes the agent has already got the permission of the club, and he shows you that,
yeah,
and you can literally, sit down with the player. But it's very much a agent club player type model. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure there's times when people meet players before they've spoken to the club, because it's also very hard not to. You could do a heck of a lot of work and then get to the club and they go, no, he's not available. So
yeah.
you've got to make sure that they are in that respect. So um, I'm not sure I've answered the question perfectly there, but it's
No, no, it was just kind of the flow really. So a lot of it is obviously done via the agent and through that they're the kind of the sounding board and the go-between the clubs and the players really. So would then, let's say the club that you're buying the player from or getting the player from is agreed, you have that conversation. Is it the first time you will typically, when will you meet the player or when will the manager meet the player? Because obviously then you've got to agree personal terms as well. Is that done before, done after? Just kind of the order of
So
things.
it's all sort of ongoing. The manager shouldn't meet the player until you've got the green light from his club. Normally, the moment you start negotiating and it's serious, the selling club knows it's serious and the buying club knows it's serious. They'll give you the ability to speak to the player.
Yeah.
Then it's down to the manager and the player to talk football, because it could fall apart then.
Mm.
If you've got a left winger and the manager says to him, "Yeah, I'm going to play you on the right, or I'm going to play you in midfield," he's going, "No, no, no." So it could fall down at that point.
Yeah.
So that's where that is. So that meeting will be going ahead whilst the two clubs are pretending, if we given the authorization,
Yeah.
whilst you're sorting that out. Terms, again, the sort of terms will have been known from the start. So the agent will sort of say, look, he's looking for 10 grand a week, or he's looking for 15, 20, 50, whatever it is.
Mm.
So you sort of know where the ballpark figure is.
Yeah.
You'll have also done your homework to understand where he might be now.
Mm.
And where does he fit into your squad? So what are you prepared to do? So you got the manager's stuff going on one side, you got the club, and then you got three conversations going on to get the one deal done at the end.
Yeah.
And usually the player and the agent will also be having a separate conversation about, are they happy with the offer? Do they want to go there? And so on and so forth. So it's quite complex. It's not as easy as, FIFA, where you just go, oh, like that player, make a bid and sign him and he's in the team.
Yeah.
So it is quite complex.
Yeah.